Good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you are sitting today, tuning in to today's webinar. And welcome. I'm Larkin Yanulis, Regional Director of Growth, and I am so excited to be joined by Ron Fitz, who is not only the former president of NAR, but an agent, managing broker, and industry leader. Ron will be sharing key insights from his 40+ years of navigating challenging markets. And this is going to be a dynamic and informative conversation on how to leverage change as a way to create opportunity and value in your business. And welcome, Ron. It's so great to see you today.
It is great to be seen, and it is wonderful to be with you. I'm looking forward to our conversation, Larkin.
So am I. Been looking forward to this all week. And to our participants that are still logging in as well, thank you for joining from around the country here today. For some context and just kind of opening up the conversation, we always like to start with some engagement from our audience as well. And so I'll preface that in my position here at Compass with the growth team, the team and I are having conversations daily with agents who are both at Compass and outside of Compass. And given all the current events in real estate, it's triggered a variety of different sentiments, to say the least. Some agents feel indifferent about the changes. Others are optimistic about grabbing new market share and opportunity. Others are confused. Some agents are feeling anxious. And at Compass, we honor and respect each of those feelings. And Ron and I plan to address all of the mixed reactions today. So on that note, I encourage everyone that's here and logged in, we'd love to hear from you directly. Thank you again for being here. Feel free to prompt questions in the chat throughout today, and we'll pick up questions as time permits. But to kick us off for the audience, if you could please drop in one word that might describe your outlook on recent changes in the real estate industry. And I'll read a couple of these as they're coming through as well. So some people are feeling optimistic, confused, right? Some lack of clarity, looking for more information, some fear, right? And concern, even not just for agents, but concern for the buyers. So I'd love to direct, just in response to some of these feelings that are out here, would love to pivot over to Ron directly to get your latest sentiments on what you're seeing, what you're hearing and feeling from the market.
Larkin, it is, I've been doing this a long time, and this is the single greatest challenge to the way that we as an industry and I as an individual engage my core business. For many years, there were a series of recipes that worked really, really well. And I always prided myself on being not necessarily the most innovative person, but a fast follower of great trends, etc. And the fact of the matter is, the court decision and the settlement have really undercut all of the assumptions by which we engage each other and how we work with buyers, sellers, and more. So the universal anxiety makes sense. It really does. And I get frustrated when someone says, don't worry about it, it's same old, same old. No, it actually is not same old, same old. Mm-hmm. And the range of choices in one breath has narrowed, but in another breath, it's opened. And the thing that I know is great challenge creates incredible opportunities. And I feel this, not exuberance, but this enthusiasm that we are going to rise to the occasion. And part of the reason I have such confidence is we as a profession have been around for more than 120 years. We've endured world wars, we went through the Great Depression, we went through the Great Recession, and even in our own lifetimes, we've gone from, 18%, 30-year fixed rate mortgages, and we're complaining about 7%, and I always smile at that saying, shoot, I started when it was 18%, that wasn't the credit card rate, that was a 30-year fixed rate mortgage. But the reason we've done so well for the long haul is we put our customers and clients at the keystone of the arch of everything we do. And we will continue to do that. Now, to be clear, the nature of the market is going to be fiercer. The competition is, in fact, going to be fierce. And if you're not strong, if you're not sharp, if you're not aggressive, the ability that you'll be a casualty of this market and the changes increases. And that's something that we just have to acknowledge. It's a fiercer market to win the hearts and minds of customers. And we do it one family, one person at a time.
Thank you, Ron. It is. It's a fiercer market today, and there's a lot of noise out there. And with that, you know, I'd imagine everyone here has read the headlines, seen the headlines that are
Yeah.
out there. Has
It'd be nice if
fielded.
the headlines had some sort of connection to reality. The fact of the matter is the people that are writing and talking about it, they're not in the industry. They don't understand. They haven't read the court decisions. They haven't read a whole bunch of stuff. And it's just so frustrating to be fighting misperception rather than dealing with reality.
Right.
And that's the biggest problem we face right now, guys. It's if we could just deal with truth and fact and information, this would be something that we could manage, we could handle, and consumers would understand our role in what we do. But that's not the luxury, and that's not the world we live in. So
Correct.
should we kind of deal into what the fiction is and what's going on to begin with? Is that kind of our next step?
Let's do. And I think so on screen here, we've compiled a couple different components reiterating fictional headlines, sentiments, comments that have been heard in the industry as an outcome of many of the recent events and the facts tied to that. And something that, you know, we witnessed in our industry was as all these different headlines were coming out, you know, being able to take a proactive stance on that and help create clarity
Right.
is something that at Compass we feel very strongly about. And our CEO, Robert Refkin, was able to post many of these fact versus fictions quickly on social media as one example of how getting the you know the reality of what impact this might mean out to the general public. And obviously as agents and brokers, each of you are combating this on an individual level every day. But Ron, to dig into a couple of these here, let's go down in order. You know, on the first, the sentiments out there that we've heard of the 6% commission on buying or selling a home is gone.
Well, what's
How do
ironic
you
about
approach
that
this?
is that from my first breath as an agent decades ago, I was always taught that fee is negotiable. There is no set fee, et cetera. And every time you meet with a buyer, a seller, you have a conversation about compensation. And your responsibility is to articulate your value and persuade them of that value bring to the table and then get an agreement from them to be compensated. As a practical matter, what was really frustrating about the court case is they presented evidence that 94% of the compensations to buyer's agents were within a 0.5% range. But they never talked about the fact of what the total range in the marketplace is. You can actually buy data entry only at no cost, at virtually no cost, at $250, $500, and you can pay premium. The real challenge, and what's really, really important to me on this particular piece, where we have been negligent as a profession. For 50 years, we didn't explain what we did and the value we brought. We said, hey, I got paid, don't worry about it. I got paid, I delivered the value, no problem. When the reality is, when we don't tell customers and clients as to what we do and we don't explain our value or don't tell all the detailed stuff that we do, they think we're overpaid. Oh, and by the way, we post on Facebook that we listed a house on Thursday. We did open houses Saturday and Sunday. We had 40 families through on Monday. We were in agreement. We were in agreement at $50,000 above list price. And the consumer is looking at it saying, wow, I should go into real estate because if
Wow, that's
I sell a
easy.
house in
Yeah.
4 days and make tons of money, I could do that. Oh, and by the way, they think about their last transaction when they bought and they said, I could do what that person did. So we make it look easy and we also aren't transparent in what's involved. You know, a footnote, Larkin, I just did a transaction. It was an estate with a VA buyer. And the estate attorney was telling us that we couldn't close in 30 days and the VA buyer needed to close in 30 days. And the estate attorney said, no way you can do it, et cetera. I didn't go to the buyer or the seller or the buyer's agent. I went to all of the players in place to be able to expedite the resolution of probate. So we closed in 30 days. Now that took me 10 hours. By the way, I do what all of you do. I made it happen because I work on this very pro-consumer model, which is a contingent fee. If I didn't close, I didn't get paid. Oh, and by the way, the vet deserved to have the house. It was a fair value. He needed a place to live. But there's no invoice that says I spent an extra 10 hours to expedite it. And that's the piece that I think we need to be a little more forthcoming. I sometimes feel like we're behind the curtain in The Wizard of Oz. We make it all happen, and consumers have no clue. They're still protected by this model of a contingent fee. And I understand there are many other different models, but this is a really pro-consumer model. So yes, the fact of the matter is the market's going to determine what we're worth. And if we can't articulate what we're worth less.
Mhm. Thank you, Ron. And taking a look at a couple of the other fictional points here on the left here, sellers no longer needing to compensate buyers agents, buyers no longer needing buyers agents. I'd love to dig in on those two with you.
I always get frustrated when attorneys that don't understand our business are trying to create the architecture and the platform upon which we work. The irony of ironies is I'm spending more time with my sellers explaining the nature of buyers' compensation or buyer's agent compensation. And that's actually a healthy thing. And what I'm saying is, look yes, there are listing agents and listing companies that will offer zero compensation, et cetera. That is absolutely their prerogative. And you can make that business decision. My question is, do you really want to negotiate a transaction with terms that are favorable to you and the most amount of money? Oh, by the way, the most amount of net money, because there are people that are probably less expensive than I am in the marketplace. But what I'd be happy to do is show you a list of all of the sellers I've represented in the last year, show you what my initial listing price was, what my sales price was, what my cost was, and what I generated for those clients. We need to be more forthcoming in that, because at the end of the day, we deliver really, really well. And I'm proud of the fact that that value, even after I pay buyer's agent a very strong fee, my sellers win. And that's what they're judging me on. When we allow the conversation to be strictly about our compensation rather than the return on investment for hiring us to their bottom line, we lose. Okay. Now, to be clear, we've got to spend more time talking about it. And I get frustrated that there's a natural reaction when someone says, well, you're not worth that we react, that we're like, of course I am. We say, well, then don't hire me. Well, time out. We've got to catch our breath and understand that there's not maliciousness or anger or distrust in the question. There's genuine curiosity to understand how it works. The average home seller sells now every 11 years. They don't understand the platform. They're reading the headlines, and the headlines say, don't overpay. None of us want to overpay. But our role is to gently respond to the questions, to educate the consumer, to say, this is what's in your best interest. One other footnote. According to NAR, 82% of consumers hire the first person they talk to. They're not talking to several agents. And I've been really bold lately, guys. I've been telling sellers, go ahead and talk to two or three other people. If you don't think that I'm bringing maximum value, don't hire me. Now, I do that with a degree of confidence, okay? And you guys be careful. You don't want to do it with arrogance, because no one wants to work with arrogance. They want to work with confidence. And I close by saying, look, if I can't close you on my value, then what is my ability to close a purchaser on your maximum value, on the most amount of money? And that kind of leads to the second piece. Buyers need representation now more than ever. And in a market where there is not many markets in this country where there are not enough active listings, I love it when I hear that an unrepresented buyer is one of the competing offers to my buyer who I'm representing. I love to win. I like the competition. I am really effective because, like you, I bring all of that experience to the table. I was just at a round table with a group of Compass agents, and one of the luxuries of Compass is the sense of team and sharing best practices. And there was a whole conversation about how to make the offers to sellers from buyers more compelling. And the recipes there's a young man in Providence, Nate Adam, who's been in the business 4 years. he had some brilliant strategies. Well, I don't have as much experience as the rest of you. And I said, you know what I love about Compass? Compass acknowledges accomplishment. I don't need to have done this for a long time to glean a great idea or learn a great idea from someone who's new to it. That esprit de corps is important. And the fact of the matter is, buyer's agents are needed now as much as they would be any other time. And we tend to forget this is the single most important purchase the family makes, and first-time home buyers in particular. Also, Larkin, just as a footnote, I was extremely relieved yesterday that the VA announced that they are going to suspend the prohibition of any compensation to buyers agents in VA transactions. We needed that, and that is, frankly, the National Association of Realtors coming through for us to get that done, because veterans who serve this country deserve representation when they go to buy houses. I mean, they should not have been prohibited. So, fact of the matter is, wow, the situation is evolving. And yes, someone said it's murky and unclear. Oh boy, is it. And we're going to figure out where the potholes and the challenges are as we progress. But be patient and give each other and give buyers and sellers, everybody, just a little bit of grace, because this is new topography. I feel like I'm running on a path and they took away my running shoes and now I'm in bare feet, and I'm not terribly comfortable with the mud and the rocks on my feet.
Are you an avid runner, Ron?
No, I used to be an avid runner. I'm now an avid walker and I like to hike. So yes, I think that you're an avid runner from what I understand.
In the past, yes, but sounds like we all evolve from starting to walk to run and on to walk again. Well, thank you, and in your sentiments, on VA changes in place here, right on the cusp of Memorial Day ahead. Seems like it's all well timed. One thing that you had mentioned that I think would be interesting as well in kind of engaging our audience was how you shared that in this mastermind group, Compass acknowledges accomplishment versus tenure per se. I'm curious though, from our audience, if you could just drop in the chat here, how many years have you been licensed? Is the majority of our audience here, I know we have a combination of people that are newer to the industry as part of our topic, and people that, like yourself, Ron, are decades of experience here. I'd imagine, in reading some of the chats that are coming through, it does seem like we've got a great spread of it. But so far, most of the people that have responded here, it looks like having about 10 plus years of experience, and some others that are newer, maybe 2 or 3 years in. How for someone, let's go to someone that's newer in their real estate career and approaching the changes of recent, whether it was the pandemic and clear cooperation, and now coming into the themes of today. What would your guidance be for how people that are newer in the industry can really be best equipped with the latest information to relay to their clients on fact versus fiction?
Yeah, and I actually think that's I think this is a really challenge, and let's be really direct. This business has virtually no bar to entry. Getting into the business is very, very easy, but staying in the business is really hard. Over the last 20 years, NAR has done a study, and only 16% of the people that enter the business every year survive 4 years. So 84% don't make it. So the fact that the majority of you are at 5 years, 10 years, 15, you've already beat the odds, okay? But the reason you've done that is, 1, you're a fast follower, and 2, you're coachable. And the people that are coachable, that are willing to learn, I've been doing this a long time, and today I was like picking up great ideas that I'm going to implement literally at a 4:45 appointment this afternoon. The Compass platform is really fascinating to me because I had been in an independent company, a family-owned business for decades. And we were really good at picking up great ideas, and it was really fun to compete and being nimble and dexterous, et cetera. But the wisdom, the collective wisdom, wasn't as prevalent because there weren't as many people to draw upon. And the willingness to share best practices, it's really important. This is a nice way of saying Coachability, adaptability, nimbleness are what you're going to need to be able to move into the future. But if you keep consumers' needs as that keystone, everything flows from that and flows toward that. You'll crush it. You'll do fine. The other footnote is you got to be able to reset. It's really important that when you fall on your face, and you will fall on your face and you will fail, okay, that you get up and you keep going. So if you fall 7 times, you get up 8. But the ability to reset is a necessary skill set, and it's going to be a much more critical skill set as we go through this transition. The fact of the matter is we all mess up. In fact, I did a listing presentation a year ago. I did one of the best listing presentations I've ever done. I crushed it. And 2 days later, I got a call from the seller. $1 million listing. I had the largest market share in the area. I'd sold 4 other houses in the neighborhood. Like, guys, I am the go-to person. And they said, well, we've decided to go with ABC person. I never heard of them. And I go, who? They said, so-and-so. I said, okay. I said, would you share with me why you made the decision? Well, she's new to the business. And she said, you could sell our house even if she were the listing agent, and she wanted us to be her first sale ever. Her first sale ever. And I'm like, no
So they
word.
emotionally agreed to give her that opportunity.
That listing.
Mhm.
The fundamental piece is I realized that you need to connect with the consumer first on the heart level. The data, the curricula vitae, the record, all of that stuff is great. But if they don't connect and know you care about them and their situation, all the other stuff becomes less critical. So with that as the precursor to the conversation, when you overlay all of the resources that Compass has, that's where I've been fun. I have not lost a listing presentation since we've joined Compass, because the resources that I have available are nothing short of amazing. They're amazing. The bound books, etc. And that's stuff that we did on a not acute basis, but on an elementary level. This is a PhD program for marketing. It's just really, really cool.
Awesome.
So
Well,
you
thank
got
you
a
for
really
the
good question.
humility to share as well, Ron. And one of the core entrepreneurship principles at Compass is learn from reality. So it sounds like that was a hard lesson to learn that you had shared, and I'm sure the audience can relate to other moments of really feeling that that lesson as well. But let's pivot into buyer representation, signing these agreements. Would love to get your take. I think everyone on this call now knows it's important to sign this ahead, but let's dig in on this a little bit.
So the irony of ironies is that 23 of the 50 states have already required people sign buyer's agency contracts. And some of the larger states actually have done that. So for the rest of us, in Rhode Island, we've not required that. We're requiring it now. I will tell you, I've been doing it for about a year now. I thought it would be really, really hard because I'd never done it before. It's actually not that hard. The answer as to why sign a buyer's agency representation agreement, from a business perspective, it clarifies the relationship. The real question is the exclusivity of that relationship, et cetera. But the fact of the matter is, having that transparency and having a clear indication as to what compensation is going to be is pro-consumer, pro-us. The fact of the matter is, you're not going to have a choice based on the settlement. Beginning on the 17th of August, that will be required. Now, I do know that the implementation date is 17 August, and the finalization of the settlement will be later this year, but you're not going to have a choice. So not to dismiss the why part of it, just to say it's not going to be an optional thing. We are going to be required to do buyer's agency agreements. You really want to analyze what the buyer's agency agreements have within them. You need to know them, because unlike a listing agreement that you're used to, this is an agreement that you've got to be mastered at. Does the buyer's agency agreement have a provision for termination? Does it have a provision for what would happen for excess funds that are offered by the listing agent to you if you have a lower fee that is the agreed upon fee? How do you handle bonuses if there's a bonus? Is it an exclusive buyer's agency agreement or an open buyer's agency agreement? Now, I look at that question and go, I'm not going to have a buyer work with a bunch of us. You either work with me exclusively or don't work with me. I have a fixed amount of time. I insist on that. But in the profession, we've got to be much more gentle in these conversations. And what's really interesting is having them now, my clients, those buyer clients, they're paying more attention to what compensation is, and they're having conversations with me when we go see a property. If the property's offering $10,000 and my buyer's agency compensation agreement says I'll be paid 20, we're having a conversation before we look at it that is their discussion at their initiation. So I actually think the transparency is good for the industry. I think it will help us. And I really like the fact that since I have an exclusive agreement, says I'm going to be represented, if my well-intentioned buyer goes to a for sale by owner and wants to buy directly, I have an instrument for compensation. And guys, I bring real value. You bring real value to customers. It's nice to have a mechanism to make sure we get paid for that goes across situations. So I actually view it as a net win for us as professionals.
Fantastic. Thank you for sharing your thoughts on this, Ron. And skipping ahead here, we had just gone through some of the fact versus fiction pieces, but I'd like to get into mindset, as that is so important for an agent navigating any kind of industry changes that are going to be happening. What would be your advice for how agents, or maybe taking it personal, Ron, would love to know your routine of how you stay strong, how you stay focused in this kind of environment, and any advice you may have for our audience today.
So let me preface the conversation by, I kind of want you to more focus on what I'm saying rather than on what I'm doing. Okay, I'll pause on that. I'm a competitor and I like prevailing in the competition of the market. I like that part. But what I've learned in the process is sometimes the hardest thing for me to do is to say no thank you to opportunities that just sound amazing, but actually are going to be ones that take all the best of me. I remember having a client who, when I would see his name on my phone, I go, oh, now what? And the problem is this particular client took more time, more energy, and more positive energy from me than the other 5 or 6 great people that I loved working with. And I finally reached a point where I said, I need to respect myself and say no thank you to somebody who I'm never going to be able to satisfy. This is a person I did really well on selling a property for. We sold for significantly above list price. And in all the reviews, he gave me 3s. Like, what? Like, I did amazing for you. But when I started respecting the value of my work and saying, I'm going to work with the people who value me and respect me, it was very helpful. So I think we need to be disciplined and analyze what the opportunity is. That said, the nature of this business, the highs are really high and the lows are really low. And there have been periods where I've gone through and I've done 2 or 3 presentations and I'm not in any of them. And I'm saying, okay, I work on a contingent fee. I have to make something happen. And what I do in that score is I have 2 or 3 life touchstones. I have people that I call when I just need them to give me that personal, unconditional love. Like, tell me this is okay. And it's a way for me to make sure that my family gets the best of me rather than what's left of me, because I do that venting and that discussion apart from the family. The family shouldn't have to deal with that.
Yeah.
The other footnote is I make it a point to have half a dozen professional mentors. I have people that I reach out and say, what are you doing now? How are you doing this? And we share best practices. But the thing that no one does in mentoring is they never report back to the mentor. And what I realized is if something was a great idea I got from the mentor and I went back and said, thank you very much. I said, Larkin, this was great. Thank you so much. You said, great. But I would never call you back and say, Larkin, look, I think I followed the plan. Here's what I did, and say it didn't work. When I realized that if I did that, you'd say, okay, let's figure this out. And we would dissect the behavior and then come up with a strategy to make it work. What was awesome is you were no longer just a mentor. You became my professional coach. And that's the essence of why this works so well at Compass, because we have coaches that are basically team leaders that do the delivery, but it's really fun to have them say, wait a minute, Ron, that was a good idea, but have you thought about this? And that's where I've taken good lessons and built upon them. this is a business in which, whether we're on a team or not, we're judged individually. And that can be painful. And on occasion, we can be doing all the things right and it just doesn't happen. Think about the fact that in a normal market, there'd be 5.5 million sales. This last year, there were 4.1 million sales. Guys, that's not enough to feed everybody. That means it's a fiercely competitive market. So your ability to compete in that environment where there are 25% less sales, that's hard. So having people, one that will give you that support, but also will give you the strategies to be effective. And the only other thing I would say to you on the social media stuff, boy, my social media now looks like a Hallmark card. Like I am just so neutral. And when people want to go into my social media and use it as a platform to make, you know, provocative things, I clean it up. Okay. But I'm limited now in how much social media engagement where I'm still consuming it like never before, but I don't let it take me off my game. And then I have a couple people that are the people that will really hold me accountable. And you need to do that. None of us do it great. And stop asking the question, what did I do wrong? I'd love you to ask a question. Look, you know what I'm doing? How would I do better? If you ask the question, how do I do better? You're going to get a different answer and you're going to get strategies for not just success, but for thriving. One parenthetical. We just took over marketing a major sports club and spa facility with ultimately up to 500 units in Southern Rhode Island. It's called the Preserve. It's spectacular.
Congratulations.
It's awesome. Now, to be clear, if we did not have the affiliation and the resources and the reach of Compass, that never, ever would have happened. There's no way my micro team of 5 could represent a project of ultimately 500 units without, you know, the 350 Rhode Island agents and the 35,000 agents across the country. And that's the piece that I would really encourage you guys to scale. I think you're going to realize that, yes, in an immediate sense, great resources, great packaging, et cetera. But the reach of the organization, and one other footnote, I'm not an organization that is a training organization. It's a learning organization. And the reason I make the distinction is the people I'm with are the best and the brightest, and they're teaching me how to do better best, not how to do elementary. We're not learning the ABCs. And that's really important to be in that environment where someone's saying, hey, how do I hit any key? That's not the dynamic here. And if I may, there's one other piece on the negative press. There's going to be negative press, absolutely. And the negative press doesn't want to illuminate the situation. They're creating eyeballs and interest. This is reality TV at our expense, okay? But we've got to be better at stepping back and responding to the frustration, the concern, and the stuff, and lean into it and step into it to write our future rather than be reactive and angry and say, I'm done, and throw our hands up, because there are going to be people in that space. And if we don't tell our story, nobody else is. And if they're going to tell a story, it won't be positive about us. So we got to go back to being really good storytellers. That was a very long answer to a simple question. Sorry about that.
A lot of great thoughts here. And I again want to encourage over to to the attendees today, any questions that you would like to Ron to personally answer. We'd love to be able to drop in some more of those questions. Feel free to put them in the private question section or in the open chat, and we'll get to those. But Ron, something, just significant that you were sharing there in regards to how you keep a positive mindset and how you have your half a dozen mentors, and how at Compass it sounds like, have really found the place for you and your team for community, for support, for thought leadership to continue to refine and up-level your game. One of and those are all very, very much at the core of why many agents outside of Compass have been open to the idea of having conversation with Compass, because they've heard from agents like yourself here of their positive sentiments and experiences and why they continue to grow within Compass. Another area we haven't touched on today is prompted here for our Q&A, But let's go into the technology. I think you hit on a lot of the support that you receive, but the tech and tools, would love to understand. And for context, for those that do not know as well, Ron has just a decorated career in real estate. And prior to joining Compass, he and his family had a boutique brokerage. And in part of making the decision to join Compass, I don't want to take words out of your mouth, but I've heard you speak about this experience, but would love to understand, now that you've been here, how and what do the tools and tech provide for you and your team?
So kind of the preface is that we were an independent company that my mother started when we moved in Rhode Island when I was in high school. So that's kind of the thing. And I'm a third generation of 4 generations of realtors, and there was real resistance fundamentally within the family not to be independent. So the decision to migrate took us time to get there, et cetera. What has been a pleasant surprise is I'm not a techie. The balance of my team are very technical. They're really, really good. And what's been fun about the Compass staff is that the support team we have has been great at delivering the technology in a way that we can each manage it in the way we like to learn. I'm really good. They have a business tracker function that I love because I can see everything that's going on. I can see where my transactions are. The platform in and of itself is just really strong, and it's nimble, it's transparent, and it's easy for a non-techie like me to use. The marketing pieces and the resources, whether it's the individual communities, are awesome. My son is in the sports and entertainment division, and the collaboration in that particular group is nothing short of amazing. And they have just, there's a family group, there's a luxury division, et cetera. Those marketing pieces converge to make us formidable and effective. But it's kind of fun. I had an issue where I needed to figure out how to do a form I hadn't used with Compass. I wanted to get a referral form done. And there's a whole protocol that we have on the platform. And Tamara, who works in Providence, I said, I need to know how to do it. And she said, well, you can come in and do it. I said, look, I can't get in there today. We'll get it done later. And 30 minutes later, she sent me a 90-second video of how to do it on screen. It was essentially a digital hug saying, I know you're busy. I want to make this work. And I know you. That's really valuable because technology is worthless if we don't use it. But when you have people that figure out how to deliver the technology in a way that you can absorb it and apply it, that's amazing. And I was so grateful for it because I was able to do that form later that evening, but she made it simple, easy, and straightforward. The other footnote, when you look at the resources across the country where you can network with people who are not in your immediate market area to say, what are you doing on this particular sector? How are you handling this? That particular esprit de corps is exceptional. Oh, and by the way, remember how I said I love being a fast follower? The fact of the matter is, we're still fast followers, but we have a lot more people to follow. And that's so much fun. One other quick footnote on the enabling the agents. I'm only scratching at the surface of resources now. Every time I dig deeper, I find there are more and more resources that make me that much more effective. And here's the piece. Technology will never replace the relationship, but the technology enables me to focus on the relationships. When we were an independent company, we used to spend a lot of money on leads and lead procurement. It was just a wonderful idea. What Compass has reminded me to do is focus on the people I have relationships with that know and love us already, and hone in on that source and build out from that. We're way ahead of where we were at the same point last year in a market. Our market is even more rigorous because there's less inventory right now. We're under 800 single family houses when this time of year we normally have between 2,500 and 3,000. And yet our market share is larger. That's directly related to, one, us being smarter in the environment, and two, having the resources to be more effective and focus on the relationships.
Thank you, Ron. So a combination of not only that there's, invaluable technology that helps you and in your team to save time, there's also the layer of support. We call them agent experience managers at
Right.
Compass. The one that you referenced that sent you a video of how to do a simple step, right? That virtual hug that came through. So at Compass, we fully believe in coupling that there is this self-serving, incredible platform for agents to leverage. And there are humans that sit in the offices that also can teach you and your team how to leverage those tools so that ultimately you're spending even less time on technology because you're spending more time now with your clients
Exactly.
and
And
working
the other
there.
thing is, I was really intimidated by the concept of onboarding because I've been doing things a similar way for a long time. And the onboarding process was gentle. Oh, and by the way, I was learning at my pace, which was much slower than the rest of my team, but I wasn't left behind, which was I was grateful for.
Fantastic. Love to hear that, as it should be, right? As it should
Yeah,
be.
but Larkin, that's what the thing, and this is kind of the irony of ironies. We had a very realistic expectation as to what we were walking in, but it's really fun that after what, 7 months, that our expectations were not mildly exceeded, but widely exceeded. And they're exceeded both in our level of satisfaction, the efficiency of our work, our pride in the work, and our production, as well as our income. Whoa, like, and by the way, we're very careful. We don't tell people what we've done for dollar volume, et cetera. We're very careful to say, we judge our performance as a team based on the number of families we take care of. So we're very relationship driven on that. We're able to scale more than we've ever been able to do, so we can help more families than we have in the past. That's exciting.
That is. Congrats, Ron. Question over for our chat here. So on the topic of technology, you've heard from Ron a little bit about Compass's tech and platform in-house, but I'm curious for those outside of Compass, what is some technology that you use every day in your career as agents and brokers that you can't live without? I'm curious if we can get some response in the chat here. And while we do that, I did want to go over to a couple of questions that have come through from the audience. So Ron, I'm going to direct these to you and go from here. So one agent had asked, Ron, do you win every time? Do you ever get to?
I
Let's
wish.
hear it.
No. I've been doing this a long time. Wow. I've been doing this a long time, and no, I definitely don't win every time. I like to win every time, but I have a funny close with particularly sellers. I do more work with sellers than buyers. My son is my business partner. He works with more buyers, and that's kind of a generational divide, so it works out well. But I always say to people, look, if you're not going to make an optimum decision and choose me and choose one of my competitors, it's really important that I know what the basis of that decision is. Now, if it's price, I'm cool with that. If it's cost, and that's a really important thing for me to say, okay, I didn't convey my value. If it's because I'm going to list with my brother-in-law, I go, okay, it is what it is. But the fact of the matter is, I win more than I lose. But I understand that if you don't go up to bat to try to compete, you don't win all the time. By the way, if you're I think it was the Teddy Roosevelt comment that he really respects the people that are in the field that are doing it, and even the people that lose and fail versus the people that criticize from the stands. What I will tell you is I learn from my mistakes. And when I lose to another competitor, I say, why did they make the decision, et cetera? And I really watch what happens in the market. I watch what days on market are. I watch what the list price is, et cetera, is in terms of final sales price. And I also really study the feedback. What's really strange in the market right now, if you do simple professional courtesies, people will really respect you. I've always wanted to make everybody I work with in the industry, my other contemporary realtors and competing realtors, love working with me. Because at the end of the day, that's to my advantage, that's to my client's advantage. So I'm religious about giving feedback quickly. If there's no match, I'll give the feedback quickly and say, look, it's not a match, thank you for getting us in, et cetera. But those relationships within the profession need to be built upon again. And what I like about what we're doing now is I actually have more time to pay attention to that. And it's helpful. No, I really wish I won all the time. You know what? It's ironic, guys.
Don't we all?
You want to, well, no, but you want to learn
It
from
makes those
mistakes.
wins that much better when you
It
do.
does make the wins that much better, but you don't learn from wins, you learn from failures. It's
Mm-hmm.
a really good video. If you get a chance, Denzel Washington has a video. It's a commencement address. It is about motivation and it's called Falling Forward. It's 10 minutes. Look at, if there's ever a time at which you need encouragement to work through mistakes, it's right now. Listen to, it's on YouTube. It's 10 minutes, Falling Forward, Denzel Washington, motivation. Listen to it because it talks about failure and moving beyond it. We really need that right now. We really need that. And by the way, I listen to that probably once every 2 weeks.
Okay, so that is part of your secret sauce of maintaining a positive mindset. That's great. I can't wait to see that. All right, couple more questions here, and if we do not get to some of the questions that have been asked from our engaged audience today, we will make sure that we have a member of the growth team follow up with you so that we can get answers to those. One agent had written in asking the question of, what do you recommend for a new agent that's spending most of their time trying to win listings? What would you recommend to a new agent that's looking to get more listings, to clarify?
So I think for new agents, the fact of the matter is you want to see what the pros are doing and what they are doing in the situation. I'll tell you, I was lucky because when I first started in the business, I had 2 people mentoring that I was able to shadow, and I saw what worked and didn't work. And I learned very quickly to watch body language. And it was funny because I remember being in a transaction we were talking about this morning, being in a transaction where the seller wanted to know how much, and the agent who was presenting didn't want to go there. He just wanted to tell you more and more and more. And ultimately, he talked himself out of a listing. If he just answered the question and say, look, I work on a success fee, here's what the success fee is, or this is the contingent fee, this is the commission, there would have been a chance. But the body language of the seller continued to get more frustrated and angry. And we were done, we were dismissed, and there was no follow-up at all. The other footnote is if you're brand new, having somebody that you work with as a team that can provide you with the resources, the experience to watch what you're doing and ask them the question, how do I do better? Because you're going to make mistakes to get there. But there's some people that are going to trust you, like the person who chose the brand new agent over me.
Hmm?
They're going to want to give you that chance. Don't disappoint them. And here's the irony of ironies. If you simply do what you say as an experienced agent or a new agent, you're in the top 2% in the industry. Almost nobody in the industry does what they say they're going to do. So if that means you're going to update the seller every Monday you do it, even if there's nothing going on, even if it's all bad going on. You simply deliver what you represent you're going to, and you are going to be in the elite. Final observation for new people. Give yourself the grace to make mistakes. You're supposed to learn from the mistakes. You need to reset and say, okay, what did I learn from this? What's my takeaway? Do not let a failure take you off course. The fact of the matter is, this is about, we said in the beginning about grit and grind. This is about heart, passion, and persistence. At the end of the day, you're going to have the information, the skills. You're going to learn what to do to be effective. The question for me is, do you have the persistence to get there where you can capitalize upon that? The 4 years of determining effectiveness to master it, that's a long time, but you can get there. You can get there. You don't want to be washed out of the industry because you let somebody discourage you. One other footnote, and you'll appreciate this, Larkin. You were talking about running. In a prior life, I still open water swim, but open water swimming, did an Ironman, etc. And I have a personality defect. When someone tells me what I can't do, they set the goal line. And there was a guy named Ken who told me there's no way I could ever run a 5K. And the 5K became a half marathon, became a marathon. He said, there's no way you could ever do a triathlon. And there's no way you can do an Ironman. And I realized, God, I've got this terrible personality defect where when someone says they can't do it, they've determined the finish line. Fact of the matter is, know yourself.
Mhm.
And if you need to draw upon other people to have the patience and persistence to get through the challenge of the moment, rely on them. But at the end of the day, do not let anyone else limit your potential. It's all within you. This industry is amazing because the platform for entry is almost non-existent. It is not even a half step. But the
Mhm.
ability to survive is predicated on mastering the skill sets, having the resources like Compass, okay? But more than anything, the persistence to move from first gear, second gear into enjoying the freeway. And this opportunity is a freeway.
This opportunity is a freeway. Thank you, Ron. And in closing, this will be our final question. You spoke a little bit earlier about, some of the reasons why you and your team, multi-generational, well-known brokerage in the market, decided to go from independent to joining Compass. For other agents that are potentially exploring their options of brokerage affiliation, my question for you, Ron, is what has Compass unlocked for you about your own potential that you think could be relevant for others here?
When we were struggling with the decision, we didn't want to give up our identity. And it was really interesting because we had discussions with a whole bunch of brands. And they were willing to humor us and let us remain a team, but they didn't understand us. And the fact that with a grandfather and a mother and a son in the business, the sense of our organization's purpose, it's funny, when my mom started the business, the motto of the company was "Our family taking care of yours."
Hmm.
And when we made the migration to Compass, I'm saying, okay, are we giving that up? Is this going to be corporate, transactional, and non-personal? And the fact of the matter is, Compass got us in terms of, look, we're going to find a way for you to maintain that sense of identity, but we're going to have our family take care of your family. I thought those were words. They were not. They genuinely have done that. And from the initial greeting from Robert with a call to me to say thank you, as somebody who has told you that the relationships are the essence of the thing, I thought, okay, is this a one-time event, etc.? It's not. Now, is there an expectation for performance and delivering? Yes. If you're looking to do this as an avocation, this isn't the match, right? If you understand what hard work is, if you understand what being a professional is, and you want to be the best in the industry, this is an awesome place to be. And for us, this is better than we expected. Is it perfect? No. It's hard for me. The hardest thing, you'll appreciate this, like, the hardest thing for me to do was to get used to having to ask permission to do things. I'm like, I could ask somebody. Like, that just was hard for me.
Yeah.
But the funny part was, it hasn't been difficult in terms of the answers and the expectations. That part has been really, really good. And say, okay, we can try that. What about this, etc. It's awesome. That said, if you're making the decision, do your due diligence. I think when you really compare this opportunity with other opportunities, it becomes obvious. And in fairness, we did an exhaustive search. By the way, one other footnote. So many people believe that at the end of the day, splits are the game. Got to pay attention. What's the split?
Mhm.
What I would urge you to do, figure out what ends up in your pocket. That's the criteria. And if you have a split that is not quite as much as someone offered us an incredible split, et cetera. And I said, what are the resources we get? So we're just a split. And I'm going, okay, you give me a great split, but a great split of non-business is not any more money. So when you're doing your analysis, do yourself a favor and say, what are the resources I'm going to have, and how is that going to impact the total experience in terms of production? And is it going to enable me to be more efficient so I make more money?
That's right.
just be careful on that. I watch people and say, oh, I got this. And I look and go, yeah, that's nice. What are you taking home?
Yep.
And that's playing the long game. And that brings me to one other parenthetical. I taught a class in St. Louis on Monday, and one of the people in the class had 3 kids. And she said, when each one of my kids was born, I bought an investment property. And when they're turning 18, they get to use that to fund college or fund their business or whatever. Look at guys, you're in the business. You really need to own real estate, not just your own home. Compass is going to provide you with the resources, the income to make that more probable. Please make sure to step over that threshold and do that as well.
Great advice, Ron. Thank you so much. And I can tell it's all incredibly sincere. And we're so grateful for being able to tap into just your experience, your expertise, your thought leadership. Thank you so, so much, Ron, for your time and your insights shared today. And to our attendees, it's been a delight to spend some time with you all today. Look out, many of you had asked for if there would be a recording. The answer is yes, so that will be landing in your email inboxes. And for more tips, valuable content, don't forget to check out our website. You can also access previous webinar recordings, read the Compass Advantage, connect with one of our growth team partners, and much more. So that will also be included in the follow-up email at www.compass.com/agents-compass. Thank you, everyone, and I hope you have a tremendous day.